In a not-too-distant future, a brutal drought has wrecked the United States and folks murder each other for a sip of water. Nearly everyone fled, yet the Holm family stayed since Ernest believes crops can bloom again once they secure water. Ernest still recalls a greener earth, yet his boy Jerome never saw it. One day, two robbers torch the lock of a tiny shed on the ranch and sneak inside. Ernest busts them red-handed and opens fire, dropping one burglar on the spot. The surviving thief pleads for his life, swearing somebody tipped him off water was there. The man claims he needs to relieve himself, then dips a hand toward his waist, but Ernest spots the pistol and fires first. From afar, Jerome mutters he could have helped. Ernest simply tells the boy to call him Dad instead of by his name. He then opens the shed to reveal a well pump, yet sadly there is no water in it. They push the mule onward without a single drop to drink. Farther down the road, the pair stumble upon the watermen, a crew who own a government-backed monopoly over all water, pulled up from deep wells. Ernest hands over the goods and gets paid in water. He warns Jerome to keep his mouth shut around these guys since they are ruthless. Their job is only to trade and clear out fast. Time and again, Ernest begs the watermen to pipe water out to his dry land, yet they always ask a fortune. Heading home afterward, their mule collapses and ends up badly hurt. The creature is in agony, so Ernest puts it down with a single shot. Jerome weeps, insisting he could have pulled the trigger himself. Back at the farm, Jerome's sister Mary hands them astronaut-style food that almost tastes like a real home-cooked meal. Later, she scours the dishes with handfuls of sand. Ernest tunes the radio, and Jerome sketches wildlife, their only pastime. Out of nowhere, Ernest catches a sound and rushes out, only to find Mary snuck away through the window. She is off to rendezvous with her hidden lover. The next morning, Ernest and Jerome ride to Sam Lever's auction barn and bid on a robot simulate shadow called Sim for short, meant to replace their mule. Sam's son Flem keeps bidding too, battling them to the very last round. Ernest still takes the win, sinking deeper into debt. Afterward, they drive to the hospital to see the kid's mother, Catherine, unable to walk after her crash. The clinic owns a special rig wired to her body so she can walk again. The sole path to bringing Catherine home for good would be purchasing that costly device. After a lovely afternoon by Catherine's side, the pair head back to the farm. On the way, they run into Robbie, Suze, and their boy, and Ernest brands them buzzards for milking the kid's pity to beg, then speeds off. They pull into a gas station, and once the tank is full, Ernest sips some fuel to even out the bill. He then brings a little water over to Robbie and his kin. Robbie and Suze are mulling over giving up their son since they can barely feed him. Ernest talks them out of it, vowing to share water with them. That evening, Flem shows up at the ranch. Out in the open as Mary's hidden boyfriend, Flem asks to borrow Sim and pledges a rental charge. Ernest declines unless Sam steps in with some guarantee, refusing outright. Flem takes the rejection hard, sneering he would never own that patch of dirt anyway before storming off. Next run, Jerome and Ernest score a fine deal with the watermen. Ernest gently pushes the crew to mull over a deal to run a water line onto his property. Next, he digs up his aging pump so the watermen can come and size up exactly what he's got to offer. As they labor, Ernest urges Jerome to get out more, find a girl, or gather a few friends. Jerome would rather watch over his own household. Heading home, they watch Flem roar past at full throttle. At the house, Mary does laundry, pouring detergent into the washing machine. Ernest barges in and bans her from leaving again. Mary rebels, snapping she's old enough to do as she pleases. He insists it's about protection, but she shoots back that she despises her dad and loves Flem. She bolts for the door, collides with Jerome, and begs him to buy her time so Ernest can grab her. Weeping, Mary insists her father let the family down, so he boards up and nails her window shut. Days later, Ernest and Jerome wake to find Sim gone. Ernest figures Flem took it and rides over to his place, only to learn that Flem had driven a truck off toward the mountains early that very morning. The truth surfaces that Sam once owned this very ranch, and Flem is eaten up by what his kin forfeited. Yet Sam himself believes the soil is dead and no amount of water will save it. Ernest rides into the hills to dig for the truth and gets clubbed unconscious out of nowhere. Come night, he wakes inside the watermen camp, charged with swiping their cargo with the machine. Ernest swears he did nothing, yet boss Caleb Moore isn't convinced. A scuffle breaks out, and after a brutal brawl, Ernest snatches Caleb's blade plus a rifle, firing to drive the crew off. He sprints off while Caleb hurls curses behind him. En route home, Ernest stumbles upon Flem dozing by a dying fire with Sim parked close by. It dawns on him, Flem swiped the machine and the liquor just to frame him. Ernest bides his time till daybreak, then wakes the man at gunpoint. He binds Flem to the machine, now loaded with stolen cargo. Marching through the blazing heat to the watermen, Flem keeps needling Ernest, bringing up Mary nonstop. Ernest yanks the rope and drags him down as a lesson. Soon enough, both men are far too parched to push on, and Flem talks Ernest into halting for a quick sip of water. The cargo turns out to be liquor, not water, and Ernest's old addiction quickly drags him down. Flem pretends to sip too, swearing Caleb wants his head, which is why he stole the machine to stay alive. Flem even dangles cash in front of Ernest, who turns it down since the tale reeks of lies. Ernest rises, yet the booze has left him woozy and barely able to move. This whole scheme was Flem's from the start, and he seizes the moment to smash a rock into Ernest's skull, sending him crashing down against the cliff. As he bleeds and slips into darkness, Ernest flashes back to Catherine's crash, a wreck his own drinking caused. When Ernest comes to, he finds himself lashed to the machine while Flem, shrieking like a lunatic, forces more liquor down his throat. Flem then rides to the ranch and Mary jumps on his motorcycle to run off together. Terrified for his father, Jerome sets off to track him down. At nightfall, Caleb spots the machine at the camp where they claim Ernest died in an accident with Sim. Standing at the grave, Mary and Jerome weep side by side. They still need to break the news to their mother, and Flem pulls up in his pickup to drive them all home. Back home, a seething Jerome hammers away at the machine until Flem rushes over to stop him. Grief is brutal, Flem admits, but they can't let it ruin a source of money. Flem then volunteers to step up as the new man of the house and look after the siblings. He stuns Jerome with the news that Mary is expecting. With grand plans for the ranch, Flem wins Jerome's okay to try. That afternoon, Flem ferries supplies to the watermen and asks Caleb to run a water pipe to the ranch. Caleb turns him down until Flem lays Ernest's death squarely on him. With his own shotgun and blade found beside the corpse, Caleb fears the fallout and finally caves in, agreeing to reroute water onto the young siblings' land now. A few days on, the ranch's brand new pump gets officially installed. Flem toils from sunrise to dusk planting wheat, all kept alive by sprinklers. For the first time, the family can enjoy real showers. Weeks pass until Jerome spots a tiny green sprout in the dirt, and in time the earth blossoms with lush crops. To mark the occasion, Flem and Mary tie the knot and ink one another's initials on their hands. At the celebration, Flem downs drinks while Ernest's death gnaws at his mind. Days pass until Sam shows up with 2 bank officials. The bankers lay out Ernest's towering debt and demand Flem settle it. Flem revs his bike to spook the horses and Sam chews him out, noting no one ever offered to buy the land. Ernest owned it only because he refused to move. With water and harvest secured, the bank can unload it, so Flem must pay up or he'll lose the land. That night, Flem loads Sim onto his pickup and swings by for Robbie and the baby. He spins a tale about scouting inmates, all to quietly auction him off behind Robbie's back. In a panic, Robbie demands his son back and the buyers gun him down. They open up on Flem too, but he blazes back while speeding off, leaving the machine in the dust. The machine catches a stray bullet, kicking in its homing protocol and steering it back to the original factory. Come morning, Flem settles the bank with the baby money, lying he sold Sim to Robbie. Meanwhile, Sim limps into the city and is discovered by its maker, Calvin Hueman. Digging up the owner's details, he phones the ranch, and when Jerome picks up, doubt begins to creep in. Jerome rushes straight to the town market where he spots Flem chatting with Suze, who cradles a doll like it's her own child. Realizing what's going on, Jerome tries to confront them, yet Flem drags his wife off in a hurry. Back at the ranch, Jerome questions Flem about Robbie, and Flem claims Robbie grabbed Sim and ditched his family. Dead set on unearthing the truth, Jerome resolves to pay his mother a visit. In reality, he boards a bus toward the frontier, only to be stopped by guards since he's still a minor traveling without a guardian. Just then, a girl named Anna approaches and offers to smuggle him across for a fee. Jerome agrees, and Anna tucks him into a truck packed with chickens. Hours later, the rig rolls into the city, which he sees for the first time. He reunites with Anna, who takes him to the factory, taking only half the cash. She reveals the return leg was always a con, insisting he needs no guide home since no one will block his way out. Jerome asks if she ever met a man named Ernest, yet Anna draws a blank. Jerome next sits down with Calvin, who runs through every feature of the machine. It turns out Sim's eyes are cameras built to map the terrain, silently recording every single thing the robot has witnessed. Calvin shows Jerome the ropes and hands him some privacy. Jerome chokes up hearing his father's voice once more, yet joy curdles into horror when he learns Flem murdered Ernest. The footage reveals Flem lashed Ernest to the machine and aimed it straight at the watermen camp, staging it so it looked as if Sim lost control and dragged Ernest to his death by accident. Jerome crumbles right there in the office. That night, for the first time in over 10 years, rain falls on the farm. Jerome heads home, plays it cool, and asks Flem how he got the machine. Flem is baffled and checks the barn, stunned to find Sim sitting there without a scratch. He guesses Robbie hauled it home out of guilt. A few days on, Jerome swings by the plot and vows to tend it exactly the way his father did. Later on, Flem and Jerome go hunting to scare critters off the crops. Flem whiffs every shot, then shoves the rifle at Jerome, cursing the weapon for his lousy aim. Jerome aches to pull the trigger on Flem, yet instead they drop a deer, proving Flem's aim is the real problem. Back at the house, Jerome tucks the rifle away in his bedroom. At lunch, Jerome mentions he just got a call from Robbie, who's on the hunt for Flem. Flem flares up and blows his top, screaming that Jerome must be lying. Mary scolds Flem for his outburst, while Jerome swears he's telling the truth. Flem storms out of the room in a rage. The next day, a letter arrives, penned by Jerome to look as if Robbie had written it. The note begs Flem to come find Robbie at the cliffs since he's in deep trouble. Before leaving, Flem hunts for his rifle, and Jerome claims he stashed it to keep it safe. Because Flem had claimed the rifle was acting up, he pretends to accept the story, even apologizing for his tantrum at dinner. Grabbing a knife, he heads to the cliffs with Sim and shouts out for Robbie. Out of nowhere, he tumbles into a camouflaged pit and shatters both legs. Crying in agony, Flem begs the machine to save him, but Sim doesn't comprehend. Just then, Jerome steps out with a rock in hand. It dawns on Flem that this boy already knows everything. Terrified, Flem pleads for mercy, yet Jerome pays him no mind, watching as he writhes beneath the sun. Finally, Flem hollers for help all over again, begging Jerome to consider his sister and the unborn child. He rambles on endlessly about mishaps and remorse until Jerome grows so sick of it that he raises the rifle and puts Flem down for good. Back home, Jerome lets Mary believe that Flem simply walked out on them, never revealing how Ernest truly met his end. Thanks to the harvest money, they can now finally afford real groceries. The pair agree they can finally buy the rig so Catherine can move in and live with them, and Jerome wipes every trace of Sim's recordings, looking ahead to plain, honest, home-cooked meals for the future. And so concludes Young Ones, a science fiction drama from 2014. Thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one.